most of you know that I am for the Second Amendment all the way, 100%. And I have a right to bear arms. And I don't need a reason to do it. I don't have to be going hunting or fishing. I have a right to bear it. I'm in a free country. There's a lot of talk now about arming the school teachers around the country, which to me make a lot of sense. I'm surprised that they're not already armed. Your Second Amendment does not stop at the door of the school. I have with me Alabama State Representative Will Ainsworth he's a Republican from Guntersville. And he is for arming the teachers in the classroom. And it's an honor to have him here. Representative Ainsworth, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, great to be on the show. Good morning. How are you doing?
All is well. You are in support of arming the teachers in the school. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's the right thing to do. And I think when you look at the situation in Florida and literally those coaches that went in and all they could use was use their body as a shield, and they certainly were heroes, but they couldn't defend themselves. That's really what got the conversation started. We had educators, we had coaches in our district reach out to us and said, Will, we need help. Yeah. We want to be able to defend ourselves and protect our kids.
What is the mentality of anyone who think that there is something wrong with this, arming the teachers?
I just don't think they're answering the question. You hear a lot of people on the left and the liberal media that's saying, we can't do this. But here's the question they can't answer. What happens when a gunman gets into the school? And that's what arming the teachers is about. We want to do everything we can do to secure the school, to make sure a gunman doesn't get in. But, if a gunman gets into the school, the only thing we can do is stop that gunman with deadly force. And we've got to make sure that teachers can protect themselves and, most importantly, protect the kids. I mean, that's what this is about.
It's so interesting. They are teaching the kids how to hide under the desk or lay on the floor. And no one in that classroom has a way of stopping the gunman from shooting in. There was a report of this down in Florida where this guy was shooting through the glass windows, and people were getting shot. Had one teacher in that room had a gun, they could have possibly stopped the gunman.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, what I want your listeners to know is I've got twin boys that are 8 that are in 2nd grade and a daughter that's in kindergarten. They go to public schools. And so I've got skin in the game. And, as a parent of kids in public schools, I want our teachers that are properly trained and going through a voluntary process to make sure that they can protect our kids. It's important. And I think it's common sense. I mean, because right now, literally all the teachers can do is defend themselves with the number 2 pencil. And that's just not going to work. They can run, they can hide, but, we owe it to our kids to make sure we protect them. We protect our president, we protect our country with weapons. Why would we not protect our kids?
It's interesting, too, because most of the people who are against arming the teachers, the entertainers, the Democratic politicians, they're all armed. They have bodyguards. They live behind gated communities. Their families are protected. But for regular folks, they want you to put your life at risk. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And, one of the things we started looking at in Alabama is we literally have sheriff's deputies that work as a sheriff's deputy at night and then go in and teach in the classroom in the day. They're allowed to carry their weapon in when they're a sheriff's deputy, but because they're a teacher, they cannot carry their weapon in. We have people that serve in the National Guard in Alabama that are educators that we trust to protect our country with weapons, but because they're a teacher, they can't defend themselves and our kids. That's the type common sense thing we got to solve. I mean, we're talking about you're going to have to go through proper training. You're going to have to pass a mental background check. And, once you do that, it's strictly voluntary. It's not mandatory. But if you want to protect yourself, if you want to protect your kids, you should be able to do that.
Yes. Is this the teachers who are fighting against this? I realize there are liberal teachers who don't want it, or is it something that the school unions are against?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly liberals and Democrats that are opposed to this. We've had thousands of teachers, literally thousands, that have reached out to us on Facebook, through Twitter, through email, and said, "Will, we support this. We want to do." And here's the other good thing: a lot of teachers, they don't even necessarily want to carry, but they feel safer knowing there's going to be somebody that's properly trained that can protect them and their kids. And so, not only are the supporters of the ones that want to carry, but we have supporters that actually feel comfortable knowing their school's going to be safer.
Just FYI, I know you're not aware, but I grew up in Alabama, down by Tuskegee area.
Yeah.
And I love Alabama.
Well, yeah, Alabama's a beautiful state. Yeah. It's we love it, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I graduated from Auburn, so not far from Tuskegee at all. So
yeah. So you're working on something right now there in Alabama to arm the teachers. Tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So our bill deals with voluntary arming the teachers. You've got to have 40 hours training, which is and it's APOS training. It's the same training our law enforcement goes through for firearms. And it's so they're going to be properly trained. It's voluntary. And the idea is to make sure we can protect the kids in the classroom. And here's what's interesting. We had 33 co-sponsors. And what I want your listeners to realize is that not all situations are the same. Most of our co-sponsors were from rural Alabama. And what we started looking at is there's some schools in Alabama school systems where we have 18 schools and only one school resource officer to protect 18 schools.
Amazing.
And when you look at the response times, normally 5 to 12 minutes for law enforcement, and an average shooting only lasts 3 minutes, the question is, how are we protecting our students in rural Alabama? And the answer is we're not. So we've got to solve this problem. We've got to solve it across the nation, or, our kids, they're going to continue, they're sitting ducks in the classroom. And that's what we're trying to do. Just take a common sense approach to people that are properly trained, that are proficient with firearms, and that can protect themselves and the kids, and make sure that when a gunman gets into our school, is that we can stop him with deadly force. It's what we got to do.
What can we do to help you, encourage you, or is there anything we, the people, can do to help you?
Yeah, I think you're doing it. I mean, just talking about the issues, but I mean, what we've got to do is just fight back, because, the left saying that guns are the problem, and they're dead wrong. The problem in America is evil people and just our society. I mean, think about it. When we were growing up, I mean, this was not even an issue.
That's right.
And so, the question, in my opinion, is we could take away the guns, but criminals are going to find a way to get guns. People that have mental health issues are going to find a way to find weapons and do evil things. We've got to make sure we protect ourselves. That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do, and that's what this bill does.
I got my first rifle at age 15, and it was a nice little birthday present that my grandparents bought for me. I unwrapped it, went out into the woods. I killed a squirrel, and I kept that rifle until I just couldn't keep it any longer. And no one taught me how to do it, but because I love what was right, I have family values. I knew not to kill anyone. I knew how to be protected with a gun. And it seemed as though some feel that we lost that common sense today.
Yeah, I think a lot of, one of the things I've learned from this is a lot of people have a fear of guns, and it's just because they haven't grown up around guns like you and I have. And, here's the thing. The guns are not the issue. And the only way we can protect our kids is a good guy with a gun. I mean, it's the only thing that'll stop a bad guy with a gun. And if you look at, people can do bombs, they can, use their vehicle as a weapon. Obviously I saw just the other day where there was a lot of stabbings going on. So, I mean, if people want to be evil and if they want to do bad things, they'll do it. That's right. So what we've got to do is make sure that the good guys that are there for the right reason are able to defend themselves. And right now in gun-free zones, they can't. They're sitting ducks.
That's crazy. Do you have a website or anything you'd like to give out?
So I'm also running for lieutenant governor, and we have Ainsworth for Alabama. We actually just went up with a commercial to talk about this statewide, because we want to get, this is something we want to pass in the state of Alabama. But it's Ainsworth for Alabama, AINSWORTH, and foralabama.com. We're in the middle of a legislative session right now, so we're pushing hard to get this legislation through. And, we're just carrying the conversation of the people. And, the good news is we did a poll the other day, and in Alabama, over 76% of the people support this type legislation.
Right on. My final question, am I wrong in believing that we don't have a gun problem, we have a people problem? And if boys and girls were raised by good fathers and mothers, as they did in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men, I don't think we will have this type of issue happening in this way if we had good families, and I don't hear a public dialogue about rebuilding families.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you said. I mean, the issue is not weapons. It's, basically the depravity and sin of man. I mean, if you look at just how evil our society's got, I mean, these things are becoming more the norm. I mean, and the point's this did not happen when we were growing up. And our sheriff said it best, and our sheriff's a supporter of this, is that we're living in a different society, and we've got to look at different solutions to help protect our kids. And that's what we're bringing to the table.
You can pass all the laws until the cows come home, but if we don't rebuild family and raise noble people, it's just going to get worse. Representative Will Ainsworth, thank you so much for coming on. I would love to have you back, and I wish you well in what you're doing.
Hey, thank you. Great to be with you today.
All right. Have a good day. President Trump just tweeted, if schools are mandated to be gun-free zones, violence and danger are given an open invitation to enter. Almost all school shootings are in gun-free zones. Cowards will really only go where there is no deterrent. He's 100% right. I love these tweets. Keep on tweeting, Mr. Great White Hope.